You can't just go gallivanting across the world by yourself, Sarah. My mother's voice echoed through our suburban home, her hands planted firmly on her hips. You're only 26. Do you know how dangerous it is for a young woman to travel alone? I stood in our kitchen, gripping my newly issued passport so tightly that my knuckles turned white. At 26, with a successful career in digital marketing and my own apartment, I thought I'd finally broken free from my family's suffocating control. Apparently, I was wrong. Mom, I'm not asking for permission, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm just letting you know my plans. Plans? My father emerged from his study, his reading glasses perched on his nose. What plans? Sarah thinks she can just fly off to wherever she wants, whenever she wants, Mom announced, throwing her hands up in exasperation. Like we haven't spent our lives protecting her. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that they meant well, even if their concern felt more like a cage. I've saved up enough for a 2-week trip. I've done my research, booked reputable hotels. Absolutely not, Dad cut in, his tone final. If you want to travel, we'll do it as a family. That's how we've always done things. Yes, that's how we'd always done things. Family vacations where my parents and older brother, Marcus, dictated every detail, from the destination to what I could wear to dinner. Marcus, who, at 32, still lived at home and worked for Dad's company, always backed their decisions. After all, why rock the boat when you're sailing smoothly? I'm not a child anymore, I protested, but my voice sounded small, even to my own ears. Then stop acting like one, Marcus chimed in, appearing in the doorway with his signature smirk. Remember when you got lost at the mall last month? I didn't get lost, I snapped. My phone died, and I was in a different store than where you expected me to be. Same difference, he shrugged. Face it, little sis, you need us. Mom nodded vigorously. Exactly. If you want to travel, we'll plan a nice family trip to Paris. Your father and I know a lovely guided tour company. I wanted to scream. Paris wasn't even on my radar. I'd been dreaming of backpacking through Southeast Asia, experiencing real adventures, meeting new people. But looking at their united front, I realized direct confrontation wouldn't work. 26 years of experience had taught me that much. So instead, I did something unexpected. I smiled. You know what? You're right. They all froze, clearly thrown by my sudden acquiescence. I am, Mom asked suspiciously. Yes, I nodded, relaxing my grip on my passport. Paris with a guided tour would be much safer. Why don't you help me plan it? The tension in the room dissolved instantly. Mom's face lit up and Dad nodded approvingly. Marcus looked slightly disappointed at losing the chance to argue further. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so glad you're being sensible, Mom gushed, already pulling out her phone. I'll call Patricia at the travel agency right now. They have a wonderful 2-week package. What they didn't know was that I'd already put my real plan in motion months ago. The savings account they knew about, the one I'd mentioned for Paris, that was just a decoy. My actual travel fund was in a separate account they had no access to, built up over 2 years of freelance work on the side. The passport, I'd shown them. It wasn't new, I'd gotten it 6 months ago and carefully made it look like I'd just received it. The research they thought I'd just started. I had a detailed itinerary mapped out for Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia, with flexible dates and carefully vetted hostels. Most importantly, I had an ally they didn't know about. My best friend, Lily, who worked at the airport as a customer service supervisor, was helping me orchestrate the final piece of my escape plan. Over the next few weeks, I played the perfect daughter. I attended every planning session, oohed and awed over the Parisian hotels Mom selected, and listened attentively to Dad's lectures about European travel safety. I even let Marcus teach me basic French phrases, though I'd been practicing Thai in secret for months. I've never seen you so organized, Mom commented one evening as we reviewed the tour itinerary. Usually, you're so scattered. I bit back a retort. Let them think I was scattered. Let them think I needed their guidance for everything. It made my actual competence my secret weapon. The day before our supposed departure, I packed exactly what they expected: designer clothes for Paris, comfortable but fashionable walking shoes, and the expensive suitcase set they'd insisted on buying me. The backpack for my real journey was already at Lily's apartment, along with my actual travel documents. That night, Mom came to my room, beaming with pride. I'm so happy you're finally embracing family traditions, sweetheart. This trip will be perfect. I hugged her, feeling a twinge of guilt that I quickly suppressed. Thanks, Mom. I couldn't have planned it without you. The next morning, we all piled into Dad's SUV for the drive to the airport. Mom was chattering about the Louvre. Marcus was complaining about having to take time off work, though he never seemed to actually do much at Dad's company. And Dad was quizzing me about emergency contacts and safety procedures. Everything went smoothly through check-in, exactly as Lily and I had planned. My family's tickets were real. I had actually booked them through the travel agency using part of my decoy savings. They get a full refund once they were issued, minus a small fee, a necessary expense for my freedom. We made it through security and headed toward our gate. Or rather, their gate. Mine was in a completely different terminal. I'm going to grab a coffee, I announced, gesturing to a shop we were passing. Anyone want anything? Don't be long, Mom fretted. Boarding starts in 40 minutes. I'll come with you, Marcus offered, but I waved him off. No need. I can handle ordering coffee by myself, I said, with just a touch of sarcasm that went right over their heads. I walked into the coffee shop, waited until they were out of sight, then slipped out the other entrance. A quick text to Lily confirmed everything was ready. 10 minutes later, I was at my real gate, clutching my backpack and a one-way ticket to Bangkok. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady as I handed my boarding pass to the gate agent. My phone started buzzing. Right on schedule. Where are you? Mom's voice was shrill with panic. They're calling for priority boarding. I'm not coming to Paris, I said calmly. What do you mean you're not coming? Where are you? I'm going where I want to go, Mom. For once in my life, I'm choosing my own destination. Sarah Elizabeth Parker, you get back here right now. I could hear Dad in the background, demanding she give him the phone. I'm not a child anymore, I said firmly. I love you all, but I need to do this. I'll send you my itinerary once I land and I'll check in regularly, but this is my journey, not yours. You can't. I ended the call before she could finish. Switching off my phone, I took my place in the boarding line. Through the terminal windows, I watched a plane take off, cutting through the clouds into open sky. In a few hours, I'd be on my own journey, finally breaking free from the carefully constructed boundaries my family had built around me. A wave of emotions washed over me, guilt, excitement, fear, and underneath it all, a profound sense of liberation. This wasn't just about a vacation. This was about proving to myself and my family that I was capable of making my own choices, of living my own life. As I settled into my seat on the plane, I thought about the message I'd scheduled to be sent to my family once I landed in Bangkok. I know you're worried, but please understand, I needed to do this. Not just the trip, but making my own decision. I'm not running away. I'm running toward something. Toward independence, toward adventure, toward becoming the person I want to be, not just the person you think needs protection. I love you all, but love shouldn't mean control. I'll send updates every few days, share photos of my adventures, and prove to you that I can handle this. Trust me, even if you're scared. It's time to let me fly on my own. The plane began its taxi down the runway. Somewhere in another terminal, my family was probably still in shock, perhaps even trying to figure out how to stop me. But it was too late. I was already gone, soaring toward my own horizon, finally writing my own story. Looking out the window as we lifted off, I smiled. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappoint the people you love in order to be true to yourself. And as the familiar landscape of home faded beneath the clouds, I knew that whatever came next, I was ready for it. This was just the beginning. The first few days in Bangkok were a blur of vibrant street markets, glittering temples, and the intoxicating freedom of anonymity. My phone remained off, tucked away in my backpack as I navigated the city's bustling streets with growing confidence. Each successful interaction, each small victory in finding my way around, felt like a personal triumph over my family's doubts. On my fourth morning, sitting in a tiny cafe with a bowl of steaming noodle soup, I finally turned on my phone. The cascade of notifications was exactly what I'd expected. 47 missed calls, 156 text messages, and countless emails. My brother had even tried to reach me on LinkedIn, of all places. The messages ranged from frantic to furious. Mom, please come home immediately. We're sick with worry. Dad, this is completely irresponsible. Call us now. Marcus, Way to give mom a panic attack. Real mature, sis. But among the barrage of concern and anger, one message caught my eye. It was from my grandmother, Dad's mom, who had always been quietly different from the rest of the family. Proud of you, sweetheart. Your grandfather ran away to see the world when he was your age. That's how we met in Singapore. Be safe, be smart, and don't let them bully you into coming back before you're ready. Love, Bron. I smiled, remembering the stories Gran used to tell me about her own adventures, stories that had planted the first seeds of wanderlust in my heart, stories my parents had always dismissed as inappropriate for a young lady. Following my pre-planned protocol, I sent a group text to my family. I'm safe and well. Bangkok is beautiful. I'll check in every few days and send photos. Please respect my choice to do this. Love you all. Then, I emailed them my general itinerary and the contact information for the hostels I'd be staying at. Not because they demanded it, but because it was the responsible thing to do. I wanted to prove I could be both independent and sensible. The responses were immediate. Mom, Bangkok? Are you insane? Do you know how dangerous that is? Dad, I'm calling the embassy. Marcus, she's probably already been kidnapped and someone else is sending these messages. I ignored their hysteria and instead sent a photo of myself in front of the Grand Palace, looking happy and very much not kidnapped. Then I switched off notifications and returned to my breakfast. A private message from Gran buzzed on my screen. Your mother just called me in tears. They're at your apartment now, looking for clues about where you might really be. Your father's threatening to hire a private investigator. Give them time, dear. They're realizing they can't control you anymore, and that's scarier for them than any danger you might face in Bangkok. I sighed, imagining the scene at my apartment. They wouldn't find anything useful. I'd planned too carefully for that. But I did feel a twinge of guilt about their genuine worry, even if it was misplaced. Later that afternoon, as I explored a local market, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Sarah Parker? A formal voice asked. Yes. This is the American Embassy in Bangkok. We've received multiple concerned calls from your family about your safety. I cut them off politely but firmly. I appreciate your concern, but I'm a legal adult traveling of my own free will. I have all proper documentation, sufficient funds, and am not under any duress. Would you like me to come to the embassy to confirm this in person? There was a pause, then a slightly less formal tone. That won't be necessary. We'll inform your family that we've made contact and confirmed your well-being. Thank you, I said, then added. Please note in your report that while I appreciate my family's concern, I request that they stop making false claims of my being in danger. It wastes embassy resources. After hanging up, I couldn't help but laugh. Of course they'd call the embassy. Next, they'd probably contact Interpol about their missing but not really missing daughter. That evening, I met a group of fellow travelers at my hostel's communal area. Among them was Emma, an Australian my age who'd been traveling solo for 6 months. Your family thinks Thailand is too dangerous? She laughed when I told her my story. My parents were the same at first. Now they're jealous of my adventures and planning their own trip to Vietnam. How did you convince them to accept it? I asked. I didn't convince them, I showed them. Posted lots of photos, shared stories about the amazing people I met, the beautiful places I visited. Eventually, they saw I was thriving, not just surviving. Her words stuck with me. Instead of arguing with my family's fears, maybe I needed to show them a different reality. That night, I started a travel blog, uploading photos and stories for my first few days. I sent the link to my family with a simple message. Follow along if you want to see the world through my eyes. To my surprise, Gran commented almost immediately. The temples remind me of the ones your grandfather and I visited in Kyoto. He would have loved seeing you embrace adventure like this. The next morning, I woke to an email from Dad. Unlike his previous messages, this one was calmer. Your mother is still beside herself, but I looked at your blog. The photos are impressive. You clearly did research before going. The hostel looks clean and secure. I'm not happy about how you did this, but just keep updating the blog, okay? And answer your mother's texts at least once a day before she gives herself an ulcer. It wasn't approval, but it was something. A crack in the wall of opposition. Even Marcus seemed to be coming around. He left a comment on my blog post about navigating Bangkok's public transportation. Okay, maybe you're not completely helpless, but you're still a brat for scaring everyone. Progress of sorts. Mom was the hardest to reach. Her messages continued to alternate between guilt trips and threats. If you loved us, you'd come home. I'm canceling your credit cards. What will people think of us, letting our daughter run wild in Asia? I remained firm but gentle in my responses. I do love you, which is why I'm sharing this journey with you. My cards are my own, Mom. I'm financially independent, remember. People will think you raised a capable, adventurous daughter. As the days passed, I fell into a rhythm. Mornings exploring, afternoons writing blog posts, evenings sharing stories with fellow travelers. I learned to navigate night markets, haggle in broken Thai, and find the best local food spots. Each small victory felt like a step further from the sheltered existence my family had insisted I needed. 2 weeks into my trip, as I prepared to leave Bangkok for Chiang Mai, I received another email from Dad. Your mother found some of your research notes in your apartment. Pages of Thai phrases, detailed budget plans, backup itineraries. You really did prepare for this, didn't you? It wasn't just some impulsive rebellion. I wrote back. I've never been the scattered, helpless person you all thought I was. I just needed a chance to prove it, to you and to myself. His response came quickly. I'm beginning to see that. Be safe in Chiang Mai. Your blog mentioned something about an elephant sanctuary. It wasn't quite an apology, wasn't quite acceptance, but it was a start. As I boarded the train north, watching Bangkok's skyline fade into the distance, I felt stronger than ever. Not just because I was succeeding in my solo travel adventure, but because I was finally beginning to break free from the labels my family had placed on me. The real journey, I was learning, wasn't just about traveling across Thailand. It was about crossing the boundary between who my family thought I was and who I knew I could be. 1 month into my journey, everything changed. I was sitting in a small cafe in Chiang Mai, sipping iced coffee and updating my blog when a familiar name popped up in my email. Marcus. Hey, brat. Remember how I always said you couldn't handle real challenges? Well, I've been reading your blog every day. Don't let that go to your head. And I was wrong. What you wrote about helping that Korean family find their lost kid in the night market? I would have panicked. You somehow managed it with zero Korean language skills and just Google Translate. Here's the thing. I quit Dad's company yesterday. Seeing you chase your dreams made me realize I've been letting them control my life too. Different cage, same prison. Dad's furious. Mom's beside herself. But for the first time in years, I feel alive. P.S. Your latest photos are actually pretty good. When did you learn photography? I read the email 3 times, letting each word sink in. Marcus, my perpetually critical brother, who had always sided with our parents, was not only praising me but also following in my footsteps. The world really had turned upside down. Before I could reply, my phone rang. It was Gron. Your mother just called me in hysterics, she said without preamble. Apparently, you've corrupted your brother with your rebellion. I could hear the amusement in her voice. I didn't do anything, I protested. I just showed him another way to live. Ron finished. Darling, that's everything. Your parents built a careful little world where they controlled all the pieces. You didn't just escape it, you proved it wasn't the only way to live. Of course, Marcus noticed. Later that night, I FaceTimed with Marcus for the first time since I'd left. The brother on my screen was different from the one I remembered. His usual smirk replaced by a genuine smile. His corporate polo swapped for a casual t-shirt. I've enrolled in a graphic design course, he announced. Remember how I used to draw all the time before Dad pushed me into business school? I did remember. Marcus had filled notebooks with sketches throughout high school until our parents convinced him it wasn't a real career. What will you do for money? I asked, unconsciously echoing our parents' favorite question. He laughed. I've got savings, and unlike some people, I didn't have to sneak around to build them up. Being the responsible child had some advantages. Hey, I protested, but I was laughing too. Seriously though, he continued, watching you these past few weeks, it's like seeing a completely different person. Or maybe it's the same person, just without the box we all tried to put you in. Our conversation was interrupted by another call. Mom. I hesitated, but Marcus urged me to take it. Sarah? Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. Are you corrupting your brother too? I took a deep breath. Mom, I'm not corrupting anyone. Marcus made his own choice, just like I did. But why? What did we do wrong? We gave you both everything. Except the freedom to choose our own paths, I said gently. Mom, look at my blog. Look at everything I've accomplished on this trip. Has anything terrible happened? Have I made any catastrophic mistakes? No, she admitted reluctantly. But that's not the point. That is exactly the point. You and Dad raised us to be capable, intelligent people. So why don't you trust us to make our own decisions? The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought she hung up. Finally, she spoke again, her voice wavering. Your father and I were going to see a counselor. To talk about things. Our need to control. Our fears. Another pause. The counselor suggested we look at your blog together. She says it might help us understand. I blinked back unexpected tears. I think that's a good idea, Mom. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and started writing a new blog post. Not about temples or street food or scenic views, but about family, fear, and freedom. About how sometimes the bravest thing isn't leaving home, but showing those you love that there's more than one way to live. The comments started flowing in almost immediately. Gran, beautifully said, darling. Your grandfather would be so proud. Marcus, still a brat, but a wise one. And surprisingly, Dad, your mother and I are reading this together. We have a lot to talk about. 2 days later, I received an unexpected package at my hostel. Inside was a professional camera with a note from Marcus. If you're going to document your rebellion, might as well do it properly. Consider it an investment in my future graphic designer's portfolio. I spent the afternoon testing out the camera, capturing the vibrant life of Chiang Mai's old city. As I reviewed the photos that evening, another email arrived from Mom. The counselor asked us to write down what we're most afraid of. I wrote that my children will go so far in finding themselves that they'll forget to come back to us. But looking at your photos, reading your words, I'm starting to understand that letting you go doesn't mean losing you. It means getting to know the real you. P.S. Your father wants to know if you've tried something called mango sticky rice. Apparently, he's been researching Thai cuisine. I smiled and wrote back immediately, attaching a photo I'd taken just that morning of my breakfast. A perfect plate of mango sticky rice from my favorite street vendor. Had it for breakfast today. The vendor, Pai Nan, knows my order by heart now. When you and Dad are ready, maybe I can introduce you to her. Her stall has the best mango sticky rice in Chiang Mai. It was a small olive branch but an important one. Not an invitation to control my journey, but to share in it, to see my world through my eyes. The response came within minutes. We'd like that. When we're ready. That night, as I sat on my hostel's rooftop terrace watching the sun set behind Doi Sathap Mountain, I thought about how far we'd all come. Not just me in my physical journey across Thailand, but my whole family in their emotional journey. Marcus breaking free from the golden handcuffs of Dad's company. Mom and Dad facing their own fears and control issues. Even Gran finally getting to share her adventurous spirit openly with her grandchildren. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Check your email. You're going to love this. In my inbox was a forwarded email chain. Marcus had sent our parents his enrollment confirmation for the graphic design course, along with a detailed plan for freelancing while he studied. Dad's reply, copied to the whole family, read, Your sister taught us that our children's dreams deserve support, not control. Your mother and I will help with the tuition. Just promise to design the logo when she eventually opens her own travel company. I laughed out loud, startling a group of pigeons on the terrace. The sun had fully set now, the city's lights twinkling below like earthbound stars. In the distance, temple bells rang for evening prayers, their sound carrying on the warm breeze. My journey wasn't over. I still had Vietnam and Cambodia ahead of me. But something had shifted, transformed, healed. I pulled out my new camera and captured the nighttime cityscape, already composing the blog post in my head. Sometimes the greatest distance traveled isn't measured in miles, but in the space between who we were told to be and who we choose to become. Sometimes the real adventure isn't in a leaving, but in discovering that when we return, both we and home have grown enough to hold all the new pieces of ourselves. 3 months after my dramatic airport departure, I stood in the arrivals terminal of my home airport, backpack slung over my shoulder, camera around my neck. My tanned skin and sun-bleached hair reflected months of outdoor adventures. But the biggest changes weren't visible on the outside. I'd expected to feel nervous about coming home, about facing my family in person after everything that had happened. Instead, I felt calm, centered, sure of myself in a way I never had before. They were all waiting beyond the security gates: Mom, Dad, Marcus, and Gron. No angry faces, no accusations, just tentative smiles and, in Gron's case, an enormous grin. Mom reached me first, wrapping me in a hug that felt different from her usual protective embraces. This one wasn't about holding on, but about welcoming back. "You look," she paused, searching for the right word. "Strong." "I am strong," I replied softly. "I always was. I just needed the chance to prove it." Dad hugged me next, awkwardly at first, then with real warmth. "We've been following your route on a map in the study," he admitted. "Your mother's even been learning basic Thai phrases." "Sawadee ka," Mom offered proudly, if not quite correctly. Marcus punched my arm lightly. "The prodigal daughter returns." "Nice camera work, by the way. I've been using your photos in my design courses." Gron waited until last, holding me at arm's length to look me over. "You remind me so much of myself at your age," she said. "Except you're braver." I waited for permission that never came. "You made your own path." We went to dinner at my favorite local Thai restaurant, Mom's idea, surprisingly. As we settled into our booth, I noticed subtle changes in everyone. Marcus wore a casual shirt with paint stains rather than his usual business attire. Dad's perpetual worried frown had softened. Mom didn't try to order for anyone or quiz the waiter about food safety. "So," Dad said as we waited for our food, "tell us about the elephant sanctuary. Your blog posts about it were interesting." I launched into the story of my week volunteering there, watching their faces as I've described helping to prepare food for the rescued elephants, learning about conservation efforts, and making friends with fellow volunteers from around the world. "You should see her Instagram followers now," Marcus chimed in. "That photo series about the baby elephant went viral." Mom looked thoughtful. "I was so terrified when you first told us where you were. I imagined all sorts of horrible things. But looking at your photos, reading your stories, Thailand seems less scary than you thought," I suggested. "More like a real place," she corrected. "Not just some dangerous foreign country, but a place with real people, real communities." Speaking of communities, Gron added, "Show them your news, dear." I pulled out my laptop and opened my email, turning it to face my parents. "Remember that travel magazine that featured some of my photos? They've offered me a regular contributor position. I'll be writing articles and providing photography for their Southeast Asia section." Dad's eyebrows shot up. "That's a real job." "A pretty good one, actually," I nodded. "They're even sending me back to Thailand next month to cover a traditional festival. All expenses paid." The old mom would have protested immediately. This new version took a deep breath and asked, "Will you tell us about it?" "Before you go, I mean. We'd like to understand your world better." "I'd like that," I smiled. "And maybe sometime you'd all like to visit." "Not to check up on me," I added quickly, "but to see what I've discovered, to experience it yourselves." "I'm already planning to come see you," Marcus announced. "Neat photos for my portfolio, and Thai street art is incredible. Your father and I—" Mom hesitated, then continued more firmly, "We've been talking about taking a trip. Not to supervise you," she added hastily, "but maybe you could show us some of your favorite places. Help us see Thailand through your eyes." I felt tears pricking at my eyes. This was more than I'd hoped for when I first planned my escape. Not just acceptance of my independence, but genuine interest in my world. "I'd love that," I managed. Dad cleared his throat. "We've also been thinking, the house has that large sunroom we never use. If you wanted to, that is, until you find your own place again, it could make a good office for your travel writing." I understood what he was offering, not just a space in their home, but acknowledgement of my chosen path. "Thank you," I said. "But I've actually found an apartment, near Marcus's new design studio actually." "You have?" Mom looked surprised but didn't object. "We're going to be neighbors," Marcus grinned. "The rebellious siblings living in the artsy district." Speaking of rebellion, Ron interjected, "Show them the other email." I clicked to another message in my inbox. National Geographic is interested in my photo series about traditional Thai crafts. They want to feature it in their cultural heritage section. National Geographic, Dad's voice cracked slightly. Our Sarah. Your Sarah, I confirmed. The one who was always meant to explore, to create, to share stories. The one who just needed the chance to spread her wings. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry we tried to clip those wings for so long. We were so focused on protecting you that we couldn't see we were holding you back. I understand why you were afraid, I said gently, but look what happened when you finally had to let go, not just for me but for all of us. Marcus found his passion for art again. You and Dad are working on your control issues. We're actually talking to each other honestly for maybe the first time ever. And the world didn't end, Dad added with a slight smile. Despite all our fears. Oh, it ended, Ron corrected him. The old world, the one where you thought you could control everything. But look at the new one that's grown in its place, so much bigger, brighter, fuller of possibilities. As if to emphasize her point, my phone buzzed with another email, the travel magazine wanting to know if I consider covering Vietnam next. What do you think? I asked, showing them the email. Should I expand my territory? The old mom would have said no immediately. The old dad would have listed all the dangers. The old Marcus would have mocked my ambitions. Instead, Mom said, tell us about Vietnam. Help us understand what draws you there. Dad added, maybe we can learn some Vietnamese phrases too. And Marcus just grinned and said, race you to Hanoi, sis. As we finished our dinner, I looked around at my transformed family, Mom actually trying the spicy papaya salad, Dad asking interested questions about Southeast Asian culture, Marcus sketching temple designs on his napkin, Ron beaming at all of us with pride. 3 months ago, I'd run away to find myself. Somehow, in the process, I'd helped my whole family find themselves too. We weren't perfect. Mom still occasionally slipped into overprotective mode. Dad still struggled with letting go. Marcus still teased me mercilessly. But we were learning, growing, evolving together. Later that night, as I unpacked my backpack in my new apartment, I found a small package wrapped in tissue paper that I didn't remember packing. Inside was a delicate silver compass on a chain, with a note in Gron's handwriting. For the girl who found her true north by leaving the map behind. Your grandfather gave me one just like it in Singapore, all those years ago. Now it's your turn to wear it, not to find your way home, but to remember that home is wherever your heart and courage take you. Keep exploring, my darling. Some stars can only shine once they've escaped their prescribed constellations. I fastened the compass around my neck, opened my laptop, and began to write. 3 months ago, I ran away from a family that wanted to keep me safe in a cage of their making.